I will pronounce my name. It is Eugene Ritigliano, and I've been here at Columbus Metropolitan Library in Columbus, Ohio for just about 4 years now. And I'm going to talk a bit about our local history and genealogy resources that may be of interest to you. And I'll hopefully spend some time on our digital collections, especially for some of our further flung attendees tonight. So let me jump into it here. So I'm going to start talking about just an overview of our print collection. What you're looking at here is a picture of our main space here in main library on the third floor. Our collection is at this point about 90,000 print volumes, and about 25,000 of those are devoted to local history, and 65,000 of them are for genealogy. And as I'm sure many of you know, there's a lot of overlap between those things. We are often consulting resources from both collections. They are shelved separately, but nearby. You can see in this picture some of the lower shelves that are sort of closer to the camera. Those are mostly our local history collection, and all the tall shelves are the genealogy. At the front, we also have our maps table and our flat files, which are just off frame here, where we leave our Sanborn maps of Columbus open, and those are very popular. We have a lot of people consulting those. In addition to our print volumes, we have about 30,000 microfilm reels, although we've been doing an audit over the last couple of weeks, and we are discovering maybe more than that. We also have 180 archival collections down in our basement. Everything is housed here at the library. And the focus of our collection is Central Ohio, but we do have coverage across the state, and our genealogy materials extend even further than that. A bit more about our genealogy collection. The bulk of it was acquired from the State Library of Ohio's genealogy collection in 2007. We acquired the entire thing. So all of those are now on our stacks. It also includes the research collection of the Franklin County Genealogy and Historical Society research collection, and they have offices in our section as well. In addition to those, we have special collections, and I'll talk about a few of those in the next couple slides. We have genealogy material from all over the states, most states, I should say. We also have a lot of material on European areas with strong migration connections to Ohio, and I'll talk a bit more about those now. So one of our special collections that we like to share about is our Huguenot collection. This is 400 titles that are related to Anglo-American Huguenot family histories. The Huguenots were Protestants that were exiled from France in 1685. Many of them eventually made their way to America, spent some time in Northern Europe and the British Isles. And this collection largely has family histories as well as church and naturalization records. I've heard that it is one of the largest collection of Huguenot materials in the United States. And we do have some researchers who come here in to rely on it. We don't have much of this available in our digital collection. This is almost entirely in our print collection. And it's a really interesting, kind of unique piece of our collection. The Palatines to America collection, this is a number of books that were donated to us by the Palatines to America Society, which is based in Columbus. Those were donated to us in 2008. And it's a significant collection, about 5,000 titles relating to German genealogy more broadly. As the name suggests, it also has quite a bit of material about Palatinate immigration from the regions in Germany. It also has a lot of general interest and research materials about German history, political and otherwise, and a lot of materials in German, including the histories, the Hofgeschichten, the 400 German farms, of 400 German farms in the Lower Saxony region. I've included a picture from one of these farm histories here. This includes a picture from 1962. And these are, yeah, a really interesting and unique collection. And recently, the Palatines to America had a conference that took place at the library, introduced a number of researchers to the collection. Really interesting material. Another special collection that has a lot of really cool materials in it is the Joy Wade Moulton collection. This is a group of research materials that were compiled by Joy Wade Moulton, who was a professional genealogist based here in Columbus. She had a column in the Columbus Dispatch for a number of years. And these materials were originally donated to the state library. They made their way to us when we purchased the collection, and covers her areas of interest were British Isles immigration. Those tended to be the things that she researched the most. And so many of the books in this collection, and this is an image of one of the shelves in that collection, relate to census records, directories, immigration records from those places. And it's an extensive collection. There's a lot of really interesting, neat things in there. A great deal of material on heraldry, on peerage. There's also, as you can probably see here, a copy of the Griffiths valuation. Some really interesting and unique pieces. In addition to those in our general collection, we have over 7,000 published family histories. The major tying criterion of all of those is that they have some connection to Ohio and really the Ohio area more broadly. And in addition to those, we have a number of surname files that have been compiled by the Franklin County Genealogical and Historical Society, as well as the Palatines to America Society. So we have those in drawers at the back of our section. There's thousands of those to look through. Those tend to include research that has been done by members of those societies based on either customer requests or their own interests, and will often include pointers to indexes, genealogical sources where research can continue. Found a lot of interesting stuff in there, and we leave them open because it's usually I think a fruitful way to continue a research or find out when someone else is researching members of your family. So outside of our book collections and those surname files, we have microfilm. Collection of microfilm is largely spent covering major Columbus newspapers. The one that many of you are probably familiar with is the Columbus Dispatch, which is still in print today. And we have a complete microfilm collection of the Dispatch. We also have a number of other major papers, including the Ohio State Journal, which was a predecessor to the Dispatch, the Ohio Statesman, Columbus Citizen Journal, which was merged. It was a Columbus Citizen merged with the Ohio State Journal. They ran concurrently with the Columbus Dispatch until they ceased publication in 1984. But really interesting paper that is not otherwise available. It's not digitized anywhere. And in addition to those major papers, we do have collections of neighborhood newspapers, including the Hilltop Record, which was on the west side of Columbus, the South Side Leader, Clintonville Booster. As much microfilm coverage as there is, we try to acquire here. Many of our reels come from the Ohio History Connection, but we do also try to augment those with other materials as they come across. One of the collections that we've had a lot more interest in recently, and we've been trying to augment, is our Black newspapers collection. We have a number of historic Black newspapers that were published in Columbus, available on microfilm, including the Columbus Column Post, the Ohio State News, the Ohio Sentinel, and the Columbus Onyx, all of which were 20th century papers. The Palladium of Liberty is a little bit earlier. And we have, I'll talk a bit more about some of the work we've done making those materials more available, but they are available on microfilm here. We have collections of other newspaper sources, including German newspapers that are specific to Columbus. There is a very sizable German population in Columbus, especially starting in the early to mid 19th century, and that includes that community created German papers in their language in German, that including the Der Westbote, which is I have a picture of one of the pages there. There's also the Columbus Express, and when those two merged, they combined to become the Express and Westbote. And there's also another paper that ran concurrently with those called Der Ohio Sonntagsgast, and those are all in the German sort of the Fraktur font. They can be somewhat difficult to read from microfilm, even if you are fluent in German. But I have successfully found an obituary in Der Westbote, so it can be done. And those are a really cool collection. We also have a number of alternative sources included in our microfilm collection. The Columbus Star, which was a tabloid paper, pictorial magazine, started in the 1930s, I want to say. It is kind of salacious. It has a lot of all sorts of interesting subject matter, as you can probably imagine from the front page here. But it did cover a beat that's a lot different than the major papers did, and we found it to be surprisingly thorough in some of its reporting. So very worth looking at for all sorts of offbeat material. We have microfilm of the Columbus Free Press, which was an activist newspaper started by a number of Ohio State students in the late 60s and early 70s. It continues to be published today online. There is also an earlier representation of some of the arts and culture papers in town, the Bohemian. We have a handful of issues that have been microfilmed available, as well as materials more recent than that, like the Other Paper, which was a alternative newspaper that started printing in the 90s, I should say maybe the 80s. And then we also have the Columbus Alive and a number of others that cover arts and culture in Columbus. In addition to newspaper sources, we do have some genealogy materials in our microfilm collection that are not otherwise represented in our collection, including things like land records. Oftentimes, these materials have come from a number of different organizations. Ohio History Connection is a big source of microfilm duplication for us, but we've also received microfilm from other agencies, including things from the recorder's office. We have chancery and plat books as well as deed books for Franklin County and some surrounding counties, I should say. Many of these records have to do with not just Franklin County, which is the where Columbus is based, but a number of other surrounding counties in the central Ohio region. Tax duplicates dating back to the early 19th century. We have court records that include things like marriage dockets, probate and estate accounts, and wills, court of common pleas, indexes, and reports from those courts, census records in duplicate. We have some regional, city, and rural directories, and many of these in our microfilm collection are not ones we have print versions of. And so those that can be a really useful reel for doing any kind of regional research here. County histories, oftentimes those are compiled by historical societies. We tend to have a lot of those in print as well, but there are some that are represented here too. Cemetery records, interment and otherwise from a number of local cemeteries. And another interesting piece of microfilm here is our real estate data incorporated. So the ready analysis maps of Franklin County. Oftentimes these are satellite and aerial photography maps with a lot of sort of land use data sort of mapped over them. They're kind of a unique collection and they can be useful for doing more current land research. Possibly our most popular print items in our collection are our city directories. We have print directories, both city and suburban, as well as business directories dating back to 1843 for Columbus. When Columbus got big enough, the city directories got split into a city and suburban directory, and we also have county directories, not just of Franklin County, but again, surrounding counties in central Ohio. We've also collected Haynes crisscross directories, and these combined data from telephone registries and directories made it easier to look up a person's address by their phone number and vice versa, as well as coordinating a lot of data about phone numbers and the relationship to zip codes and other things. So it's another interesting way of sort of getting some interesting information about different parts of town, maybe being able to look someone up in ways you probably wouldn't have imagined. In addition to those city directories, we have what we would consider to be like directory substitutes or sort of supplements. We have the Columbus Blue Books, which were directories that were, of the well-to-do families in Columbus. And many of these we've also digitized, but they tend to, be reflective of, families in Columbus that were aspirational. We also have electors registries from as far back, I think, as the 1880s. And these were directories of voting age men in Columbus and in Franklin County. And these are organized by ward, can be another useful way of finding people if they don't show up as readily in the directories. Talk a bit about our archives downstairs in our basement. So I mentioned we have about 170 collections in there, and that includes about 1,400, I'd say, like back of the envelope math, it's about 1,400 linear feet of archival material. The picture that you see here on the left, this is what is now occupying the bulk of that collection, which is our Columbus Dispatch photograph archives. And so this is a collection that we purchased from the Columbus Dispatch in 2023. And we have been in the process of processing all of the prints and negatives from that collection. You can see here on the right, we have a kind of before and after of what we received from the dispatch of those photographs. And we are now, we've estimated that it's roughly 1 million images over prints and negatives. And we are still processing it. As you can see in the picture, we have some of the original boxes that we're still moving into archival grade boxes, but we have it tamed and it is a really, really cool collection. We'll talk about a bit more later. We have some funeral home records as an example of a number of things that we do have in the archives. These include record from the C.D. White Funeral Home, as well as the Deal Whitaker Funeral Home. That's a more recent collection that we processed with the help of the Franklin County and Genealogical Historical Society volunteers. And that was a Black-owned funeral home and one of the longest running funeral homes still in operation. And we have, quite a large portion of their funeral records now that can be made available on request. In addition to those, rather than getting into all of our archives, I wanted to mention just a handful of the ones that we've recently received. Federal Glass, which is a a major glass manufacturer on the south side of Columbus. We have their personnel records for people who were employed there from about the 1920s through 1970s when the plant closed. That is a collection that we just processed last year. The Forest Park Civic Association, one of several civic associations in Columbus. We've received a collection of their newsletters that we are in the process of organizing and digitizing. Hilltop Kiwanis is also recently gave us their materials about their organizational records. We also have down here as highlights, Dave Lucas collection is a collection of photographs and slides that were taken by David Lucas, who is the City of Columbus photographer, and he had been employed in that role for about 30 years, from about the 50s through the 80s, and exhaustively covered events, demolitions, major political rallies, all sorts of other things, including just sort of pictures of block by block changes that have happened across Columbus. That is a really interesting, fascinating collection because a lot of his material was used to inform decisions that were made by the Columbus Department of Development. And we have also quite a few maps, reports, plans, other things that they have used over time, many of which have been moved into our flat files, and a lot of those live down here in the archives. And so these collections are growing all the time, and we're always adding new things. Other sort of in-person stuff that might entice people to who are maybe closer by to come visit Columbus Library. We offer research appointments. There's not necessary to have a card, and that's even if you're doing a research appointment with us virtually, we will have a sit down with one of our librarians for about an hour, talking about whatever, brick wall you may have hit, or if there's a specific kind of document you're trying to find, we are happy to help you with that. I'll have a link for booking appointments with us at the end of this presentation. And our in-person appointments are fun because we get to show you cool stuff in our collection. All of our materials that I showed you before are open. All of our stacks are open. You're not required to make an appointment with us. Our hours are the same as the rest of the library. We are uniquely positioned as a part of a public library to offer access to all of these materials without really any kind of mediation. And we encourage people to use our microfilm drawers and our flat files where our maps are stored and just take a look. And it's, I think, oftentimes the most exciting thing about coming in is that kind of discovery that you get from browsing and thumbing through some of the cool stuff we have. Our archival materials, so everything down in our basement, is available upon request. As I mentioned, we have finding aids available. We do have those on our digital collection, and those can be paged and brought up as needed. We have PCs available for access to research databases, and even if you were from out of state, you would be able to use these to get access to things like Newsbank, which is who have the Columbus Dispatch Digital Edition, which is digitized microfilm of the Dispatch dating back to 1871, as well as a number of other Ohio sources. And we are a Family Search affiliate library, so we have access to that sort of broader umbrella of records that affiliate libraries have access to. We also have, as an example, as a genealogy database that's only available at Main Library for us in our system, Find My Past, which is a UK-based genealogy source. They have a lot of strengths in doing research in the British Isles. But in addition to that, we do have our digital lab, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. We have an on-site digitization staff and a number of scanners here. We have in the past been able to fulfill scanning requests. You can bring things in and see if we have the capacity that day. We also encourage people to give us some time or make a reservation. And we are able to make scans of material that we think would be suitable or worthwhile to add to our digital collection, and we can give you the scan files from those scans, and we have the capacity to scan pretty large items as well. So a lot of people take advantage of that, but I'll talk about that in a bit. I'm going to spend some time talking about our digital collections, as I think these will probably be of more use and interest to a number of people in this event tonight. Our digital collections are all in a digital collection that's name is My History. You can see the URL up here. It's columbuslibrary.org/myhistory. It is a content DM-based digital collection. It is where we have stored over 2 million items that we have scanned and organized across 85 different collections. My History dates back to, I want to say, the early 2000s is when we really started doing digitization work, and it has really just seems to have snowballed, especially over the last 5, 6 years. It is a major priority of our division to add material to this. and I'll talk a bit about how we do that. We digitize materials from our archives, print collections, and flat files, some of the things I've talked about already, as well as items in the holdings of partner institutions, as well as those that have been loaned to us by community members. Wherever possible, we make these records searchable using OCR, optical character recognition, to scan text on printed pages and make it sort of readable to a computer and therefore searchable through our website. We've also been using, for the past 2 years, we've been working with a handwriting transcription software called Transcribus to, especially with our manuscript collections that we've digitized, make those easier to find by creating transcriptions of those materials. And it is something we've been sort of rolling out with some things that we've already digitized, as well as new things. And it has been remarkably successful. So we will continue to be using that to make more and more of these records findable. Some of the highlights for anyone doing any kind of genealogy research in Columbus would be our yearbook collection. This is all digitized materials on my history. We have, at this point, I think 650 plus school yearbooks. I just added 10 yesterday. So we're constantly adding new school yearbooks. These date from the 1870s to about the 2010s. We try to be careful about, oh, we are careful about the dates that we add these in. We have an embargo period after which, anything published at this point from 2019 on, we are not going to be adding until a later date. And these yearbooks do include public and private schools across several central Ohio school systems, not just Columbus. And it's primarily high school and junior high, but we do have some college yearbooks and some elementary school yearbooks on here as well. This collection also includes a handful of student newspapers, class portraits, reunion photography, and documents from reunions of various classes. And you can see just a selection of different yearbook pages that are available here. There is, I would say, some overlap in this collection with what you might be able to find on Ancestry or in another large database. But there is quite a bit that I have not seen scanned elsewhere, and it is a priority of ours to digitize all of the yearbooks in our print collection to the extent that we are able. And we are always acquiring new yearbooks. It feels like in the last couple of years, the floodgates have really opened for that as well, and we just keep getting new and more of them. City directory collection. So I mentioned our city directories are very popular in print on our shelves, but we have also been working to digitize many of those. Right now we have about 60 or so that have been digitized across from the 1840s to about the 1930s. And the nice thing is that those scans are largely from our print volumes rather than microfilm. So hopefully they're as clear a version of those pages of the directory as you can get. And we have been working closely with our Family Search volunteers who are here stationed here scanning material for us for the Family Search Library to prioritize our city and suburban directories. So we are in the process of scanning those. I can't say exactly when those are going to be available, but it is soon. And we will be very excited when those are eventually made accessible through Family Search and then ultimately on My History as well. And you can see here, in addition to our city and suburban directories, we do have telephone directories and other things from other places outside of Columbus too. Our genealogy collection. So started out, this collection was digitized materials from our State Library of Ohio and Franklin County Genealogical and Historical Society books that we have on our shelves. And that is still largely what has been used to digitize and comprise that digital collection, but it also includes things that we have been borrowing from other institutions and agencies. So it includes a lot of primary records, indexes, as well as transcriptions of genealogical sources. And you can see here, I have just a handful of recent things we've digitized. At the top left, this is an audit of adult inhabitants of Marysville from 1910, a local sort of census taking. We also were contacted by the Jefferson Township sort of administration, Jefferson Township in Franklin County, to digitize their cemetery deeds, as well as several other ledgers that they had been holding on to and were not sure what to do with. So we have been adding a lot more of that kind of primary material to the collection over time. And then on the right, this is a family scrapbook that was recently loaned to us for digitization. The Hyatt family here is located in Barnesville on the east side of the state. And again, trying to make these as searchable as possible. with handwriting, transcription software, OCR. And in addition to these kinds of things, we have a lot of genealogical research as well as society publications. For instance, the Franklintonian, which is the publication of the Franklin County Genealogical Society, those have been digitized and added to the collection. There are family documents and photographs, usually with an Ohio connection, or at least in the Ohio region. Those are kind of the criterion for things that are added here. Bit more about the Columbus Dispatch collection. So I mentioned when we received that collection a couple years ago, we had been in the process of organizing and then also scanning. It had always been a priority to make sure that we were getting these online as quickly as possible. It was, well, one, it was hard to resist, and two, the people at the newspaper were very eager to see the stuff available online. And in the process of the last 2 years, we have scanned about 26,000 of those photographs and negatives. And, it pains me to say we're only 2.5% done. If our estimate of 1 million images is real, we have our work cut out for us for a long time. And these photographs, the ones that we've prioritized, are local photographs. So, of course, the newspaper, being a major paper, had a lot of AP wire photos, images that covered all sorts of events happening across the world. We focus primarily on those of local interest and done by staff photographers. And you can see a smattering of these here on this page. It includes, real estate listings and images of people in these sort of personal interest stories, aerials, major events. We've also implemented a scan on demand process. So we've made our list of boxes and all of the subject listings that the dispatch gave us. We've exposed all those to customers. They can go to our website and find those. And if there is a box, or I should say folder within a box that looks like it would have something that you're interested in, you can tell us to scan that. We'll pump it to the top of the queue and it will hopefully be scanned and online within the course of about 2 weeks. This is what we try to do. So that's been helpful. I think it's led to some people finding things that we may not have gotten to scan for, gosh, decades. I mean, we have so much left to do. So it'll be a while, but it's been really interesting to see what's in there already. So I mentioned our flat files. We have Columbus and Ohio Maps collection is about 500 plus maps from that group. Nearly all of them are materials that are in our collection, but we have also scanned some maps on loan from various agencies, but these date from the 1780s to about the 2000s. They are primarily real estate atlases and property ownership maps. You can see an example of the Columbus Sanborn maps. This is the one from the 1921, the big bound volumes that we have on that table that I showed earlier. That also includes some aerials, county surveys, and township maps, as well as railroad maps like the one I have here from the Norfolk and Western Railroad through Columbus. We have also been working to scan a number of Department of Development planning maps, some of which we've had to do some major conservation work to, but those have really been really interesting for showing all sorts of infrastructure change across the city and doing any kind of property research. So that has been a really, really fun and very popular collection. Our Columbus Black Heritage Collection, it was initially a grant-funded project that we have continued to add quite a bit of material to. The charge of it was really to document the histories of Black residents in Columbus, and that includes through photographs, artifacts, family documents, as well as Black newspapers. I mentioned a handful of those that we have from microfilm. We have, whenever possible, scanned those microfilm reels of the various Black newspapers in Columbus and made them text searchable. We have also, when they've been presented, scanned print issues of these newspapers and put them online as well. We are always interested in finding, especially the Columbus Call and Post, but really, if anyone has any any notion of where we might be able to find a trove of these newspapers, we are always interested in finding out more. We have also used the Black Heritage Collection to store and make available a number of oral history interviews, many of which have kind of coalesced in the Black Heritage Collection Spotlight program that our Black Heritage Collection librarian, Nicole Sutton, puts on every month. That is when she spotlights a family, an individual, a business, an event that's important to Black history in Columbus and interviews members of the person or the family or the group that's been involved with them and asks about their experiences, has them share items from their collections that we can publish. And those are all on our Crowdcast platform. I can tell you more later if you're interested. Really, really great programs. And this has really been a great resource for us to expand, what the strengths of our collection have been over time. Institutional partnerships. So I mentioned those are mostly the material that I showed you before, things in our collections, including some loans that we've added to those collections on my history. But we have also been more intentional about scanning items from a number of other organizations in Central Ohio. We have collections from about 50 of them that we do not own, but that we have made available through our My History platform. And those organizations include libraries, historical societies, cultural heritage institutions of all kinds in Columbus, as well as an increasing number of businesses and nonprofit organizations that have allowed us to scan materials in their collections and make them available and returning them to them so that if they don't want to part with them for whatever reason, they can still encourage people to use them, enhance the access to them, and allow other people to benefit from their being available. It is part of a larger philosophy that we have been adopting really in the last 6 years of being post-custodial in the way our collection develops, which is that we can utilize the resources that we've made available and the processes that we have refined over many, many years of digitization to help organizations make this material available and provide them with some organizational help in terms of maintaining these collections. It is also always possible that down the line, these materials do eventually make their way to us in the form of a donation, but really our interest is in making sure that they're available, accessible in some way. And it's been a really fruitful approach for us. And I think it's been really helpful for a number of our partners. We are also one of four libraries in Ohio that is a digitization hub, which was an LSTA program from several years ago, where we are given some funding to update our scanning hardware and make ourselves be a hub for our area of the state that other organizations know to utilize for digitization work of all kinds, which we always make available for free. And it is, again, been a really, really fruitful position to be in. And I think it's made our collection really, really useful. One of these partnerships is from Columbus City Schools. This is a partnership that came about in probably 2022 is when they brought over a number of materials from their archives that they were interested in having digitized. It included a few thousand class photos, employee newsletters, including Intercom, which I have an image of here, some directories of staff as well as individual schools have all been digitized. It's been great to see some of the photographs of the classes have the names of the students included. So wherever possible, we have made that data put it in our metadata in our records and made it searchable. It also includes things like board reports, lobby campaigns, special projects, and things dating back to just about the formation of Columbus City Schools as an entity. A lot of really, really interesting stuff. For anyone doing any kind of property research, this is a collection of the MLS cards. This is a group of cards that were loaned to us by the Carriage Trade Realty Company that's based here in Columbus that included about 190,000 cards of theirs. And that dates from the 1950s through about the 1970s. So that's when all these pictures are from. And each one of these cards included a picture of the property that was being, listed, as well as sort of stats about the property itself on the back. And we've included both of those in our digitization efforts. These are great for any kind of residential and commercial research. I'm sure anybody who's done this, tried to do a house history on themselves or on someone else they know how hard it is to find old photos of any house, really. And it is really amazing how often this comes in handy. And of course, even with the size of it, it's covers a lot of Columbus, but not every house is included, but it is amazing how much is on there. I found my house in here. It's really, really cool collection. King Arts Complex, this is another organization. This is based on the east side of Columbus. They are the custodians of the Columbus Column Post photograph archives, which is one of our Black newspapers I mentioned earlier. They have graciously allowed us to scan those prints from the Columbus Column Post. Much of this work has been carried out with the help of a CLEAR grant that was awarded in 2024. We had been working with the King Arts Complex for a few years before then to initiate some of the scanning, but the CLEAR grant allowed us to add some staff hours to digitize as well as to create descriptive metadata for these photographs, many of which are not captioned. And we believe it's about 20,000 prints from the Colin Post, and they date from 1962, when the paper first started being published, to when the publisher Amos Lynch left the organization. And it is significant not only because these photographs are, they're unique to Columbus history and document this incredible publication, but they also reflect a broader coverage temporally than any known microfilm or print holdings of the newspaper that we are aware of. So the photos in here date from earlier than and probably later than, in some cases, well, mostly earlier than the known holdings of the paper that we've ever found. So they are truly unique, and it's been a privilege to be able to put these online. Really amazing what they document. Another partnership. So this is a library that we have partnered with, the Grandview Heights Public Library, which is here in Grandview in the Columbus region. This is the Columbus Citizen Journal and Columbus Citizen newspapers collection. This is another photograph archive. And these photos are much like we own the Dispatch collection. The Grandview Heights Public Library is in charge of the Columbus Citizen Journal, another major newspaper's old photograph archive. And we provided them with, well, the digital, the sort of the collection area, the landing page and the collection space to add these records. And they have been doing some work creating descriptive metadata for the images and gradually adding them. The 30,000 images in this collection date from between 1912 to 1984. And I think I mentioned earlier that the Columbus Citizen and Citizen Journal are not otherwise available online. This is really the only instance of them that's available digitally at the moment. We do have the microfilm for them, and some print editions do exist, but this is really a cool collection because it does make accessible a whole other major newspaper in Columbus. Columbus Neighborhood Newspapers. This is an initiative that we took on with the Internet Archive. So this is outside of our My History umbrella. This is actually a collection that's hosted on the Internet Archive. But a couple years ago, we collaborated with the Internet Archive to digitize our microfilm holdings of Black newspapers and suburban newspapers from across the Columbus region. And those date back to the early, I'd say mid 19th century. But this includes, I think the highlight of this collection is the Colin Post editions from 72 to 95 are available here. And those are now all text searchable through the Internet Archive's Neighborhood Newspapers collection. We also have, the Hilltop Record and a number of other regional and suburban newspapers available through this collection. And that has really been great. This is something that we would not have had the capacity to do, but the Internet Archive opened up their vast digitization capacity to allow us to do this. And it's a really cool collection. Our Family Search partnership. So we are a digital library contributor, much like Allen County is. We have, in the last few years, contributed 3,000 volumes to the Family Search Library from our genealogy collection, as well as our local history collection. And we have also been able to make a number of those scans available through our own digital collection as well. And as a feather in our cap, not that long ago, I think our team, our current team of volunteers who scan for Family Search, had the highest volume of images scanned in a single month ever in the program's history, which was 50,000 images. So we maybe don't have as many books as Allen County does in Family Search, but we can say that we do have that record, which is pretty cool. And this is an example of a handful or just two of the books that we've most recently added to Family Search. There's many, many more on there. Lastly, I wanted to talk about another thing that we've been really proud of, which was digitization for individual customers. I've talked a bit about it, talking through our other collections. This is something that we really rolled out during the pandemic when our services were pretty heavily curtailed, which was that we did some curbside scanning where we allowed people to drop off materials at branches and we would scan them and return them. We've kind of continued that process, and it has been, I think, one of the largest contributors to our collection growth over the last 5, 6 years, which is we allow people to just bring stuff from their basements, bring it in to scan. They can drop it off for a couple weeks. We'll get it back to them. And it's really proven to be a great place to find all sorts of cool photographs, documents, other things we probably didn't know about until people brought them in. We've also created a tool on our website called My Upload, which allows people to share with us items that they have already digitized or were born digital to begin with that they think would be of interest for our collection. And they can submit them through this page on our website. We get a ping, we get to look at the metadata that they've given with those files, and then we can add those to our collection. This was something that, again, we started in the pandemic, continues to be used. I think over the last 5 years, I think we've had over 1,000 items added this way, which I don't think any of us expected would ever be the case. And it's a great way to encourage people to send things to us, feel like they're contributing to the collection, things that they've already, felt were worthy of digitization. And it's the two pictures that I have here are actually both things from that collection, the My Upload collection. And we've also been doing some oral history collecting. Formally, we've been sort of deputizing staff members at our branch locations to help with this, which is a way for us to collect more than can oftentimes be committed to, standard archival materials like photographs and documents. These recordings allow people to talk more, off the cuff about various things that, relate to their lives in Columbus or other things that they're interested in talking about. And it's something that we've rolled out again over the last 2, 3 years. It's been a successful program, and we will likely continue to do it. And I think it's really nice to get the branches involved in contributing to the digital collection, and again, encouraging people to feel like their histories are worth telling. So that is everything I wanted to cover. I have just some information here about us. You can always visit Local History and Genealogy at the main library here in Columbus. We are open the same hours as the rest of the library. As I mentioned, all of our print collections are available on the shelves. The stacks are open. You are always welcome to meet with us either in person or virtually, no card required. And if you have specific questions, you're welcome to email our general account there. That is always monitored. We also do obituary fetching. You can call us if you have questions about anything. We would love to hear from you. So that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There are questions, so
All
I hope
right.
you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right. So, there there were some newspaper ones. So, can you find a surname in the newspapers? Is it searchable?
It depends on the newspaper, of course. So I would say our first approach, our first angle when we were looking doing newspaper research is to start with the dispatch. So we have access to that through Newsbank, and it is all digitized from microfilm and text searchable. So that's probably where we would look first. We have some limited name indexes of some of the other papers. These are compiled by librarians as well as the Works Progress Administration of the Ohio State Journal. And we do have those available digitally, but those have not been transcribed and they're largely handwritten, and I would say difficult to use. So if you have if there's a name you're interested in looking up, we can try to find it for you if it is in the dispatch. It may be something that you can search in another collection. I know that the Ohio History Connection has digitized quite a bit of the Ohio State Journal, so that might be another recourse. I have actually newspaper research is something I'm really interested in, and I put together a collection guide for not just what we have here in person, but as things that are available freely online. And I'm happy to share that with people who are interested.
I think they're interested. Um,
Okay.
I also wanted to jump in. I think Gail asked that question when you were talking about the neighborhood newspapers in Internet Archive, Eugene. So those
Oh
are
yeah.
searchable.
Those are, yes. So I mentioned the neighborhood newspapers that are on the Internet Archive. Those all come from microfilm. That the images themselves have been OCR'd, so they are text searchable. I would say the quality of the microfilming can sometimes make it difficult to search larger phrases, so you might limit it to a specific name. But that can be done through the Internet Archive for those papers.
awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
Someone's asking for the contact slide to be put back up.
Oh yeah, sure. Let me share my screen again.
Just keep that up so people can take down that information.
Sure, sure, sure. That's fine.
And they are interested in the newspaper guide. So,
Happy to share
uh,
that. Yep.
perfect. And then let's see here. Suggestions for where to find information about someone who was committed to the Mount Carmel Hospital in the early 1900s. Would any medical records be available?
There are some available through the Ohio History Connection. So the Ohio History Connection is the Ohio, I should say it's was the historical society. They go by the History Connection now. They are just up the road from us. I mentioned that we have a number of reels of microfilm that we duplicated from their collection. They have some institutional records available. I don't know specific places that are in that collection. I don't know how easy it'll be for me to find this right now, but there are some mental health records available through them. I think also Ohio University has a handful as well, but I'll have to look up the extent to those that are available. So if that person wants to reach out to me, I can try and take a look for them.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have research services available for specific requests for people who are out of state and cannot come to the library physically?
Yes, we do allow, we have virtual appointments that we allow people to book with us. You can see, so my screen is still shared. The link there that says meet with us in person or virtual, that's a calendar that we use this tool called Communico. It allows people to book appointments. You do not need to have a card with the Columbus Metropolitan Library to book an appointment. And we have standard appointment times that we make available, but if it doesn't work for you, we can try and figure out another time when we're open that we can facilitate.
Transcribus, somebody's asking what that is.
Mhm. I
Uh,
will do my best to give you. So this is something that my manager is really, really interested in. It is an organization that has created a AI-based tool to help with transcription of historical manuscripts. It tends to work best with a corpus of material that has like a pretty consistent hand across many pages, and usually you would feed the program a sort of sample of the handwriting that it can use to sort of understand sort of like what the relationship is between the different characters on the page. And then you can use it to essentially feed it other images of that same manuscript, that same hand, and it can create a transcription of it. Yeah, we have been experimenting a lot with that. We're one of a number of cultural heritage institutions that's been using it, and it has been successful.
Wonderful, thank you.
Mhm.
I do know that we had a presentation on that previously.
Oh, great.
Let's see here. So, several people have been asking about the coverage of your collection. Does it
Okay.
expand beyond Columbus? Does it expand beyond maybe that region, the state, Midwest? What is the scope?
So yes, so our genealogy collection does. It extends beyond Ohio, actually quite extensively. The the scope of what was acquired by the State Library of Ohio collection that we acquired really was those places that have strong, I should say, European migration patterns with Ohio. So eastern, like mostly the colonial states, Pennsylvania, New York, Maryland, Virginia are very, very well collected or covered there. Connecticut, New York, or New Jersey. We'll also have a number of materials about adjacent states too. So Kentucky, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, really any place nearby where there has been, again, strong connections, migration with Ohio. So those are covered. I would say places where we have less coverage would be the Southwest. Some southern states we don't have a lot of material on. We do have a handful, I should say, some coverage of non-European countries as well. But it really kind of depends on the place. I might be able to try and find something for you.
Okay, how does someone access the MLS cards?
So those are available through My History. So you go to columbuslibrary.org/my history. You'll pull up our front page, which is where you can just conduct like a general search across all of our collections. But if you scroll down that page a little ways, you're going to see probably about halfway down, there is a browse by collection drop-down menu. And you can use that to scroll to a specific collection. It's arranged alphabetically. MLS cards are under M. And if you click on it there, it'll bring you to the landing page for that collection. And the way that you search it is maybe not what you'd expect. It's not organized by street address. It's organized by street name. And then within each street name, there is a group of cards that were all collected together by the realty company. So you would say search for a specific street name, and then within one of those item records, search for the street address that you're looking for. And those should be arranged numerically.
Someone's asking about German resources. So
Yeah.
you covered that you do have quite a bit. Someone is looking for Hamilton County and German settlers specifically.
So Hamilton County, I would imagine that Cincinnati Public Library is probably the place to go for that material. We we do have some Hamilton County materials, um, but I would probably start with them. I would think that's probably going to be more fruitful. Our German newspaper is largely covered um, Central Ohio, but if there's a specific person you're looking for, we'd be happy to help you out. And certainly you're welcome to email us or book an appointment.
So we're getting close to the end. Someone's wondering, are records from the old Columbus State Hospital available anywhere?
If there are, they would be through the Ohio History Connection again. I believe that they have some archival collections, but those are not online. I believe your best bet would be to look through their archives catalog. They have, if you go to, let's see, it's ohiohistory.org, and it should be in their research tab. You can search across their archival collections there. I believe they do have a collection of Columbus State Hospital records there.
All right. And then someone is curious, with that Central Ohio and like the different areas that you have coverage for, they're looking for Muskingum and Licking County.
Hmm.
Are those included?
Yes, I mean we do have materials from those places, and we definitely have Licking County covered in our genealogy print collection. We may even have some digital collections that would be relevant too. Nicole, do you have a thought on that?
I just wanted to say that I answered a couple of questions in the chat before you even got to Q&As, just to let people know that Central Ohio is usually Franklin County, which is the county that Columbus is in, and then Delaware, Licking, Fairfield, Pickaway, Madison, and Union, our surrounding counties, is what we're most likely to have materials for in our, especially like our archival collection. And then in our reference genealogy collection, like Eugene was saying, is where we'll have more for more counties, but we don't specifically collect for that when we're collecting like original documents and things like that.
Thank you. That's helpful because yeah, people are really wanting to make sure that there's coverage for what they're looking for. But the thing that I heard um, the most during this presentation is to contact you.
Yeah, I think so.
So I mean, you have the reference online. You can do a virtual appointment. You have your contact information, email, call. I'm here to contact you if you have questions, all right?
Yes, of course. We're always happy to hear from people. So please do reach out.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. That is the end of the questions. So I am going to go ahead and put our email address into the chat, genealogy@acpl.info. If somebody would like a copy of the chat, please feel free to shoot us an email and request a copy of the chat. And thank you so much, Eugene, for a wonderful presentation. And Nicole, thank you for the support work in the background. That was great. So thank you both. Really, really appreciate you being here and being able to talk about those great resources. So, thank you, everybody, and hope you have a good evening and see you at our next program. Bye.
Thank you.